Hey, what's going on, everyone? Jorel.solis with Confidence Pest Control. And as always, I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you all so much for tuning in, listening to what I have to say. My only hope is that I can give you some information that you can use in your business to help you grow and get to where you want to be. So from the bottom of my heart, just thank you so much for even, opening up your phone and listening to what I have to say, because it does mean the world to me. With that being said, I made a whole other video a few days back, or about a week ago actually, last Sunday, and for whatever reason it would not upload to YouTube. It was sticking to that same avenues of marketing. It was just about traditional marketing. I'm gonna try and upload it again, but yeah, it wasn't working, and I want to stay consistent with making these videos. That's a goal that I have. And so I woke up, it's a beautiful Sunday morning out right here. Happy November, by the way. But yeah, I came out here and I was thinking, all right, what should be the next video? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. So I just asked ChatGPT to give me some interview style questions, just to ask me a few questions, and I'm going to use that. I've got my iPad right here. I'm going to use that, and we're literally going to just jump straight in. The question number one was, what made you decide to start your own pest control company, and how did you overcome the fear of taking that first step? Man, well, and I've told these stories before, but anyone brand new, I'm gonna tell them again. So for me, I had my AirPods in, and I had made it a commitment in the year 2022. I said, I am going to just read as much as I can. I had a goal to read 50 books that year, and read and listen to 50 books that year. And I didn't want to just stick with everything else that I was consistently listening to, which was, apocalyptic and just fiction stuff. I wanted to grow a little bit. And so I started listening to personal development and motivational stuff. And that was good, and reading that led me to finances. And, I said, okay, I want to get better at my finances. And it led me to Robert Kiyosaki, not Rich Dad Poor Dad. I did read that pretty quick after this book, but it was another one of his books, and I forget the name of it, but it was The 4 Quadrants of Money or something like that. And that one really just opened my eyes to the fact that, there really were like 4 quadrants of money, and it goes into A, B, C, or D, employees versus, self-employed versus business owners, and then passive income, things like that. And I realized really quick, because, just to pause real quick, I had already decided whenever I got back into the pest control space a year before, because I had taken a little bit of a hiatus, and then COVID happened, all that. But I got back into pest control, and I got back into it because I loved it, completely honest. I didn't love the companies that I had worked for in the past, but I enjoyed the business and the autonomy that I had, being able to drive the truck and a take-home truck, and just having the independence, right? Nobody over your shoulder. I did enjoy that. And so whenever I was out of the pest space and whenever I was looking to get back into something new, I was at an age where I was like, listen, I gotta make a decision that I'm gonna be with, I don't want to be jumping from job to job. I wanted to find something and make it a career. And I actually decided pest control would be the career that I would make. And so the year before, when I got back into EcoShield, my entire plan was to kill it as a technician, to work my way into a service manager role, then to be, become a GM, and then just really follow that corporate ladder of and get into managerial position role. Like that's what I was going to do. That's what my intention was. Well, after I read that book, I realized that living the life that I wanted to live wasn't going to happen as a technician or as an employee in general. And so I was like, okay, that book just stuck with me. And then I read a couple of books. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, obviously, and it just kind of planted that seed. And I'll never forget. I was servicing a home, and the day was May the 6th of 2022, and I'm servicing, and I'm just thinking about it, and I just literally stopped in my tracks because I was thinking about, like, hey, I should start a business, because business owners is the way to go. Like, what should I do? Thinking, and then I don't know why it never had crossed my mind, but that day it did. And I'm sitting there, I'm doing the service, and I stop, and I say it out loud. I said, I'm going to start a pest control business. And honestly, that's all she wrote. I went back into the truck, and I wrote that down because it was I keep a journal, and I wrote that down right away. I was like, listen, this is it. I'm good. Killing bugs, that's the easiest thing in the world. Like, this stuff is easy, but I'm good at the other stuff as well. I'm good at customer service and customer relations and all that. I'm good at that. Now I just need to learn the business part of it. And I understood that. I didn't just say, okay, I'm starting a business and then go form an LLC and say, okay, file and register with the state. I didn't do all that. I got home that day and said, okay, I have a year to get as ready as possible, do everything that I possibly can, get my licensing, get all the other stuff that I need to do, but also just get my mind ready and what it takes to start a business. So from that moment on, I turned it into freaking overdrive, and I was just reading everything that you possibly can imagine when it comes to business and starting a business and marketing and advertising and finance. And I mean, I read the E-Myth like 12 times that year. I read Rocket Fuel. I read everything that Mike Michalowicz had published, and Gino Wickman, and just so many entrepreneurial type books. I read it all. I was reading it all. And then I was listening to podcasts. I was listening to this Hal Coleman, how to grow your pest control. I forget what it was, but old school style. But I listened to every single episode of that. And then I found Alan Draper and Bug Bucks, and I listened to every single episode of that, and then his other business, or his other podcast. And then, there wasn't a whole lot at the time, but I was listening to everything. I listened to Franklin Hernandez, everything that he had. And then out of nowhere, this guy named Jonas Olson starts a podcast. I remember the day because I would go in almost every single day to listen to podcasts and to search just to see if anybody had started a new podcast. And yesterday there wasn't one, but then that day there was a new podcast called Pest Control Millionaire by Jonas Olson. He had 4 episodes, and I'm like, okay, well, let's listen to this. And I started listening to all of his episodes, or all of his podcasts. And all of these podcasts, I've listened to every single episode of them. There's a lot more than that too. But like I said, I had given myself a year to just consume myself in business and entrepreneurship, and that's what I did. And so I got as ready as I could be. And so I said, listen, on May 1st of 2023 is when I'm going to be launching my business. And you fast forward 11 months, because I actually launched on April the 10th of 2023. But yeah, man, I mean, I was just ready. I did a lot what you guys right now are doing. You're watching videos and listening to everything that you can. That's exactly what I did. That's exactly what I recommend you do to get ready, because it's scary. But whenever you have a plan and you prepare for it, it's just like anything. I talk about football and the Marines and things like that. When you have a game plan, it's not nearly as scary. I can honestly say that. Not to say that it's not as scary or that it's not scary, but when you've prepared and prepared and prepared, and then you get into it, everything that you've been preparing for is right there. So you're just ready. Number two, when you were getting started, what were the biggest challenges you faced and how did you push through them? Just like anybody, finances, that's the biggest and scariest part, because you go from having a steady paycheck to it's all on you, and there's some people that kind of, shout out to my buddy, Jason, he kind of started his business and was just doing it on the side for like a year. And he worked up and got to, 100 customers, and then he branched out on his own and finally did his thing. If you have the availability to do that, I highly recommend you do that. But I understand that not everybody can, it's going to be a huge conflict of interest, and not many people are going to be like, yeah, you can work for my pest control company and then go start your own pest control company at the same time. It's just, if you can, then that's awesome. But if you can't, you're not alone. But for me, the finances was the biggest. That was my biggest fear. That was the biggest worry. Because it's like, hey, how am I gonna be taken care of? How's my wife and kids gonna be taken care of? I've got bills to pay, and so I highly, highly recommend that you have some savings, that you put something away, that you have a plan to go into that. Right? I cannot say it enough how fortunate and how blessed I am to have the people in my life that I do, because for me, the stars honestly just kind of aligned at that moment. My in-laws, God bless them, man. They're amazing. They believed in my dream, and I just can't say enough about that. But they had recently just sold their home, and they retired. They were well off. They were doing all right. And they said, listen, they weren't at a point where they could front me everything I needed. No, it's not like that. But they were at a point where they could say, y'all aren't gonna miss any payments. You're not gonna lose your house and my wife's van. You're not gonna lose that. So knowing that, okay, I'm gonna go out there. I'd been trying to put some money away and doing everything that I could, but I knew it wasn't gonna be nearly enough. But I put everything that I could away, and then whenever I started, it was bologna sandwiches and ramen noodles. It was doing everything we can to save every penny that we can. And then I was lucky enough to have them to say, okay, what do you have? Okay, now we'll take care of the balance for our mortgage for those first few months and things like that. So again, that was the biggest hurdle, but they were an absolute blessing, and I was able to have them, and that just helped me out so much. That was absolutely my biggest challenge, and then just pushing through it. That's all you got to do, is you just got to push through it. I knew it wouldn't be forever. I was out there hustling. I was out there getting customers from the get-go, and that's what helped me grow. So the biggest challenge was absolutely the finances. That was with anybody, it's like, hey, I can't apply for a small business loan because I don't have any. It's scary, but at the end of the day, I'm glad that it happened the way that it did, because I've learned how to bootstrap it, and I've learned so much. But absolutely the finances, and I guarantee that most of y'all are dealing with the same issue, but understand that it can be done. Figure out a way that it can be done. Get creative and figure it out, because that's what a business owner does. They just figure it out. And so, not to say that, I'm not trying to say that I've done it all. Like I was very, very fortunate and blessed. I understand that, but at the same time, it wasn't like they just wrote me a check and said, okay, here you go. No, it was, I definitely had to get out there and grind. So you got to do what you got to do. Number 3, this is more to growth and strategy. How did you get your very first recurring customers, and what advice would you give someone trying to build their route from scratch? That's a great one. this goes back to me and listening to everything that I listened to, all the different podcasts and books that I had listened to and read. They talk about, your Google business profile. And so whenever you're starting out, I highly, I can't stress this enough, highly recommend that you go ahead and you set up that Google business profile. It's no money. It costs you nothing to do so. And all you're going to do is get benefits from that. And so I made sure that once I had my LLC, and once my business was started, I went ahead and registered with Google to get my Google business profile. And then after it was good, it was like, okay, yes, you've been confirmed. And so for like it was like it's going to take like 24 to 48 hours or 72 hours to be listed. And I just kept checking. I mean, I probably refreshed Google, 1,000 times over the next 48 hours, just hoping that it was now they would be there. And then finally it was. And I remember that feeling of seeing your business on Google. It's like, whoa, this is crazy. It's the real deal. But then once it was there, I knew, okay, I need to get reviews. And I had already gone through, and I still do it every day. I go through and I look at all the reviews for the companies that are around me. And what do they say? What's working good for them? How many reviews do they have? All that type of research and things like that, right? And so there wasn't a whole lot of people they don't have a lot of reviews around me. So I'm like, okay, one thing that I can do to set myself apart from the businesses around me is get up there in reviews, because there was, a business that's been open, and that's been servicing for 30 plus years. And this year, I've seen it this year in 2025, they've gotten like 30 new reviews, and they're up to like 70. So that just goes, they only had like 40 reviews over all these years. And there was a bunch of other companies, same thing. They were all hovering right around the 30 to 50, review range. And not all of them would even be 5 stars. So I knew that I could do that. Like, I'm like, okay, that's one thing that I was always really good at as a technician, was getting 5-star reviews. So now I got to do it as an owner. Now I just need the people to service so that I can do it. But once I started, and before I even had my first customer, I would reach out to friends and family and said, hey, I just started my own business. I know you haven't received a service or anything like that, and I'm not asking you to lie. I'm not doing that. All I'm asking for is a character review. Can you? Here's a link to my Google page or to my reviews. Can you just let them know, or just if you feel good about it, could you write me a review, just letting people know about who I am, the kind of person that I am. And so my first 10, 11, 12 reviews were just that. You could even go down to Google and see my very first reviews. They're from people who didn't receive my service, but knew me as a person, and they just left positive Google reviews. And so right away, I came out the gate with like 10 reviews, 12 reviews. And so Google immediately, didn't put me top 3, but I was up there. And so that was one of the very first things that happened. It was great for me. It was great. It'll work for you as well. I promise you that. But that's exactly what I did, was get those reviews, and it helped me out right away. My very first customer that I got was a customer that I used to service way back, 10 years ago. I've got a phenomenal memory. It's not like I wrote down these addresses, but I was driving around and I said, oh, I remember this house. I remember this lady, Mrs. Phillips. I'm going to go knock on her door. And so sure enough, I did. She was still with the company that was with back in the day. And I said, hey, and she remembered me, which was great. And I can talk more to that, but she remembered me. And I told her, I said, hey, I've just started my own pest control company. And, I remember I remember coming over here, this and that. And she said, well, you know what, let me go ahead. And she called the company that she was with right then and on the spot. And she said, hey, I'm no longer going to be needing the service. I've got a new provider. And she said, go ahead. She put a card on file, and I serviced that home that exact day, right then and there. My first customer, I started on Monday, April the 10th. I serviced her Monday morning, April the 10th. So it was cool. It was, I mean, talk about a confidence booster, right? But yeah, that was awesome. It wasn't like that for every customer, but I can remember one of, like, maybe the next week, I got a phone call from Google, off of Google. It was a potential customer, and I answered, and I answered very well. And the lady's name was Monica. I'll never forget this because she was like my second recurring customer, and she said, "Hey, do you guys treat for fleas?" I said, "Yeah, I treat for anything, And she goes, "Well, we there's a lot of deer or a lot of rabbits and things, and it wasn't even in the country. It was just a lot of stuff in the area." But she said, "I don't want fleas. Can you come treat my house?" I said, "Yeah, it's gonna be $199. She goes, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." So I'm over here just like, oh my God, I'm about to make $200 real quick. And that's what I did. And before I hung up, I said, "Hey, Monica, real quick, how did you hear about me?" And she says, "Oh, I was just on Google, and I looked up pest control, and I read your reviews, and everything was really nice about you, so I wanted to give you a call." And so it really, that was the very first time that it really, drove that nail home, that, okay, there's absolutely something to this. Get these reviews, and because people are going to read them. And so I knew from that customer on how important it was to get those reviews. And so I've just stuck with it. And then the very next thing that I did as well was I went into Facebook. And if you watch my videos, you know that I'm a big proponent of Facebook and Google, right? Free. And so I went into Facebook, and I just went to my friends list, and I looked, and I didn't message everybody, but I messaged everybody that I knew that was in the area, whether it be, and the area is like an hour away as well. And so I just messaged them all, a tailored message. I sat there on my couch that day, and I said, "Hey, John, this is Jorel." I said, "Hey, John, I hope you're well. I've been seeing and I tailored every message. I messaged probably like 200 people. And I tailored it towards them. I said, "Hey, I've seen your posts about your vacations or about your family, beautiful family, by the way." And again, it was very personal. And I said, "I'm happy for you. I love to see that you're doing well." And then I said, "Hey, and just so you know, I recently started my own pest control business. I know, that you're still in the area. If there's anything that I can do to help you out, I would love the opportunity to do so." I wasn't saying, "Hey, give me your business." It's just, "Hey, if there's anything that I can do to help you out, I'd love the opportunity." And I did that for legitimately like 200 people. A lot of them were just read and not even replied to. Some of them were responded to. Just "Hey, thanks. Next time, if I see anything, I'll let you know." But I ended up getting one customer had multiple properties. A football buddy I play ball with, he had multiple properties. I ended up getting like 5 of his properties. And then, I don't know, I'd probably say out of all of those 200, I probably got maybe 9 new customers out of that. Again, I didn't have to leave the house. I sat there on the couch and just typed those messages. So that was another way that I did that. And then, so I knocked on the door. I got a Google review, or I got Google reviews and customers from Google. And then I went and messaged people on Facebook. And then the next thing I did was I went to this speed dating. It's not a speed dating, but it was like a speed dating thing for realtors. But it was just services and what we offer. And so I set up a table, and there was a bunch of realtors, and they would just come and sit at my table for 90 seconds. And I would just get to introduce myself and let them know. and I landed a property management company from that. So it was all connections, who you know, and things like that. And that one, that's the biggest one, because that one definitely kept me afloat that first year. But yeah, that was my way of getting my first, 20 customers, was just knocking on doors, messaging people on Facebook, and then having positive reviews. So if I can do it, you can do it. Number 4, I'm sorry. How did you balance doing the actual work, like servicing homes, with everything else, like marketing, customer communication, and growth planning? I'm still struggling on managing it, but luckily, when you're in the beginning of the business, the one thing that you're going to have in abundance is time. And so I would service my customers, my recurring customers, not many at all. I would service them in the first half of the month, in the first half of the day, and I would just leave the rest of the day to go do other things. It's very, very simple in the beginning when you don't have a lot of customers. You're just like, all right, I got to schedule 5 people this month. So that's easy. Yeah, you could easily do that. And then customer communication and the scheduling part. And then what else did it say? And growth planning, marketing, all that. Honestly, it was just choosing how to use your time. For me, choosing how to use my time. In the beginning of the day, I would go out there to service. I would go do door knocking and leave some business cards. And then I would just, when I was at home in the evenings and things like that, is whenever I would try to do, marketing and try to figure out something to do for marketing. So in the beginning, it's easy. As you start to grow, having the right tools is essential. For me, I use field routes. And people, and I get to, one thing you got to understand is invest in your business. So many people want to use, hey, I'm going to use Gorilla Desk because it's $49 a month, but you don't have a whole lot of access to do a lot of things, and I get it, I really do. You're trying to save every penny, but invest in your company. It's going to save you so much time and headache later on down the road as you start to grow. Like for me, now that I'm up to well over, I've got like 240 customers now. It would be a headache if I was using the $49 Gorilla Desk. I'm just going to be completely honest. But because I use field routes, it's a little bit more expensive. Mine's like $200 to $250, something like that. But it pays for itself month over month. I have no qualms about forking up $250 a month for that, because of how easy it makes everything for me. So now my scheduling takes me 30 seconds to do scheduling. I honestly will open up field routes, open up my iPad or my laptop, go to job pool, see who needs to be scheduled that day, and or who needs to be scheduled, and I will schedule them. I will just hit, click that person and put them on that time slot. It takes me, legitimately like 90 seconds. It takes me no time to do my scheduling. So I can't stress that enough. Get a good system, get a good CSR, CRM, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is that. A CSR is a customer service representative. A CRM is a customer relationship management system. And that's your field routes, your Gorilla Desk, your jobbers, your whatever type of system it is. There's a million of them out there. But yeah, having a good CRM is going to make everything easy, because it helps me schedule. It helps me communicate. If I want to send a message to all of them, I can literally just sort it out or send to all, and then just type a text message, hit send, and every one of my customers gets that email or that phone call or that message. I don't have to do it myself, sitting there. It's so simple. For marketing, same thing. I can just send out a massive email marketing campaign to all of them. When it comes to billing and collections and all that stuff, it tells me who's owed. It does all my collecting for me. On the 15th of every month, I just hit batch charge, and it says, okay, collecting 200 accounts. And it just goes through and it just charges them one by one by one by one by one. And I do like $40 a month. And so it just adds up. And then by the time, whenever it's done, all right, you've collected, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, however much it is. And boom. I mean, I just hit batch charge. I walk away, go shower, go for a walk, whatever it is. I come back because it only takes like 10 minutes and it's done. So having a good CRM is going to make your company, to be completely honest. So highly recommend it, but that's what I do. I just use your time and then using the right tools to make your life that much easier. Number 4, 5. There's only 6 questions. So mindset and lessons. What's one mistake you made early on that taught you a valuable lesson about running a pest control business? Just don't get distracted by all the shiny new objects, right? You want to say yes to everything and you want to do everything because, for example, for me, it's like I want to be like Jonas Olson and some of these big and the Proofs and Pest Badgers and all these big companies, right? It's like I want to be that, so I got to start acting and doing the things that they do so I can be there. It's just not, they have a lot of money to spend to do those things, and it's like, man, I learned to just be me, just be confident, do things the confidence way. Yes, I want to do things like that and be them, and it'll come, but just take your time, right? Just take your time and figure out the way to do it your way. Because I was consistently biting off more than I could chew, just meaning that I was just trying to do so much, and I would start, getting worn out and stressed out, but it's like I need to do what the big companies are doing, but here I am, a one-man, crew. I can't do that. So just slow down and take your time and do it your way. And then the next one that the biggest one though is finding the right SEO company or the right marketing company, because marketing and advertising, it really is the name of the game. Like, you have to be known to be found. And so marketing is absolutely crucial. And that's why I've talked about it in some of the more recent videos. But and SEO, I believe in it. I believe that it's absolutely something that you need to have in your repertoire, in your business, because people are going to be doing digital searches and they need to find you. And so SEO is going to help you. But my warning on that is, don't just find that the first SEO company that comes to you. Because I had a few reach out to me, and it's like, no, I knew that I wasn't going to sign up right away. But then, I'm just driving one day, and a lady says, I just saw your truck, and I looked up your website, and I saw that you don't have SEO, and I at the time I was like, I need to get into it. Like, this is something I need to do. And so she said, yeah, we can help you out. And I just felt like it was the heavens opening up, and it was, hey, God's timing. I found, they found me this way, not from, going on online. They saw me because they saw my truck, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the way to go. I fucking, had I just done some research, and they're quick about it. They're like, hey, I can sign you up right here, right now at this price, but tomorrow, if you call back tomorrow, it's going to be double that price. And those should have been red flags for me. But I was just, I just felt like right away, I'm like, hey, this is it. Like, this is exactly what I've been needing. And so it wasn't, by the way. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, and I moved forward with it. And yeah, it was just a nightmare from the beginning. And I realized that pretty quick, it was, and I'll straight up call it out. Town Square Media, fucking don't use them ever. They were like, okay, hey, and just a quick story. They said, hey, and even her, she said, I'm looking at all your stuff, and yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. Like, just went off, just fucking tore me a new one about how terrible my website was, right? And how terrible all of my material was. I'm just like, all right, well, hey, I took it a little personal because I was the one who had done that. I had created all my stuff myself. And so to be told how bad it was, it's like, all right, you can tell me it's a little bad, but I mean, take it easy. I'm just, it's like, this isn't my expertise. So I'm not expecting it to be good or even great or anything. But when you're sitting here just telling me about how bad it was, it's like, all right, well, damn. Right. And so then they create me a new website, and word for word, it's the exact same material. All they did was change the colors up. That's literally all they did. And I'm like, so you're going to sit here and tell me about how bad everything that I do is, and how terrible my material is, like all the writing, all the stuff that I had typed out about my about us and about who we are, what we do, all that. Like, it was terrible, but they used word for word my content, and so I'm like, that's a red flag. And so then I'm like, hey, y'all got the colors wrong. Can y'all change it up? And then I even brought it up. I said, hey, y'all are really bashing me about my material, and y'all using the exact same material. It's like, oh, okay, well, and they were just like, well, what do we do? And they wouldn't change the colors. I'm like, hey, these are not my colors. Change them up, please. They wouldn't change the colors. And so, like I said, I realized, I mean, I paid for like 1 month, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Y'all do not give me the warm and fuzzies. Y'all, I've had to reach out to, like, y'all just, it's been a bad experience from the get-go. And so I let them know. I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and, let's just go ahead and cancel it. And the lady, it's funny enough, I ran into her, she's asking me like 3 months down the road, hey, I heard you canceled. I'm like, yeah, y'all weren't very good. And after the fact, I had Googled them, and everything that they promised, they weren't even doing it. They were local marketing. They weren't even like on the first or second page. I look at their reviews. They were like 7 reviews, and they were at like a 3 stars. They had 1 5-star. I mean, it was terrible. So had I just done my due diligence, I would have learned real quick that, hey, I wouldn't have even wasted that little bit of money. And it was like $300, but I wouldn't have wasted that. But that was a lesson learned right away. And she still, she doubled down on, yeah, well, the reason you've gotten, because I'm like, she went on to tell me to my face about how I wasn't going to grow, and how I needed them in order to grow. And I said, well, in the 3 months since I haven't been using you, I've put on like 60 new customers. She's like, yeah, well, that's thanks to the website that we did. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, just some people, right? But do not go with Town Square. But yeah, that was my terrible experience. And so I learned right away. And the one thing that I did, another thing that I learned is what they're doing. All it is trial and error. And so I'm like, okay, you're going to tell me that you can get me Google reviews. I can get Google reviews. All they do, the only difference between you and them is they have a process of doing it. They set up systems to do it. They, and they just send out a message asking for the review. If you do that, you're going to be able to get those reviews. They figure out a way to, they go into Google Analytics, which you could easily do, and figure out what words were being used this time last year. And then, okay, scorpion was being used. Let's type in scorpion on your website. That's essentially what SEO is. So it's more into it, but if you're willing to do that, figure out what it is, you can do it. And so I realized I can do that. And so that was, first few months. After that, I didn't do any SEO. I just did my thing, my own. I created my own website, and I learned a lot more I did pretty well. Now I'm at a point where I do have an SEO company that's doing my stuff for me, and they've helped me exponentially. I'm ranking up there on Google. It's doing a lot more for me. So shout out to Media Bow and Samantha. She's the best. So yeah, that's been a learning curve, just understanding all that. But I made that mistake and just jumping on that because, I mean, and understand that, if an SEO company is telling you have to sign up right now or else you lose this discount, what do they have to, what are they hiding? Why are they trying to get you on board so quick that, because if they're that good, just say, hey, do some research, call some of our customers and see what we're doing for them. If they're not willing to do that, then go ahead and move on, because I promise you, you can throw your hat up in the air and it's going to land on a marketing company. So don't feel like that one right there is the one you have to go with. The one that calls you, they're not the ones that you have to go with, because there's a million of them out there. Do your research, find the one that's going to work best for you, and then go with them. Because I just had this conversation with Jason. He's like, man, yeah, I think there's this company, they've reached out to me. And I told him, I said, hey, I give him this exact same information. He reached out and yeah, it was the exact same thing. He after a phone call with them and talking to them, he realized really quick that he was not going to go with them. So just do some research. And last question, if you could go back and give your day one self one piece of advice, what would that be? A lot of the same stuff that I just said. I would tell myself, number one, first and foremost, is to use the social media platforms even more. I've used them pretty well, but there's so much opportunity with that. And so I would absolutely, from day one, continue and stay very, very consistent. Post daily, and then post just so much more content, because people are going to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And when you are making videos and the videos are giving advice, not just saying, hey, buy from me, I'm the guy, call me and I want to come, I'll sell you pest control. But if you make authentic videos that are helping others, that tells them, hey, now that we're getting into the colder months and winter season is upon us, these are the things that you can do to really limit the rodent activity, to keep rodents out of your house. And you tell them and you show them things to do. Now, it's not, hey, come give me your money so I can come do it. You're telling them, hey, this is what you do. And so now they trust you. And they like you because you're not selling to them. Now they're like, okay, this is good information. And for all the DIYers, they're going to say, okay, I can go do this. For all the other people that are, even if they're not the DIYers, they're going to be like, okay, this is good information to know. And so whenever they do start to hear scratching in the attic, they say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to call Confidence, because they were the ones, they gave me the warm and fuzzies. And they told me what to do and how to do it. And even though I'm not going to do it, they know what they're talking about. If they're giving me away free information, think of what their paid stuff is going to do. So I would absolutely post more content, more videos of how-tos and to be aware of and watch out for, all that type of stuff, and just advice, because those things are going to help you out a big time. And then I would also be authentic and create. Like I'm a pretty funny person. I like to think, and most people would agree. I'm good at making people laugh. I have funny content, so I would do that as well. I would make more funny videos, because that's another one that really just resonates with people. People want to laugh, they want to get away, and they're on social media not because they're looking to buy, but because they're just scrolling, they're just hanging out, and they're just scrolling. So whenever they see a video that catches their attention, they're going to watch it. And if you can make them laugh, they're going to like it. It's just funny. So again, they're going to like you from that, and it's going to help you out. But social media, because it's a way to get in front of so many eyes, I would tell my day one self, hey, social media is everything to you. Get as much content as you can out there, because it's going to help you. People are going to see, I get phone calls all the time from people who just said, yeah, I saw you on Facebook, or I asked my neighborhood Facebook page and they all recommended you, but Facebook is where it's at. So that's where they're going to look. All right. They immediately go to Facebook. They asking people on Facebook instead of Google. And so being right there is everything. So I would tell myself to get on Facebook even more. And that's that I've had a pretty good Facebook presence, but I would even hammer that down and 10x that by 100%. I would just 10x everything that I've done and because I would 10x all the stuff that I did, I know that I would 10x my business for sure. So that's one thing that I would do, is just hammer down content. And then I would also really incentivize a referral program. Find a way to have your customers sell for you. That's a big one. If you can get your customers and incentivize them, not with, $10 off your next service, because as you grow, you're going to realize, hey, what would I pay for a customer, and would you pay $10? Yeah, you'd pay $10 for it. We would all do that, but nobody's going to, and they don't care about that. They just don't, 100%. They do not care about $10 off their next service. But $50 Amazon gift card, now you're starting to talk their language. A $50 bill, now you're talking their language, something tangible that they can use. They say, oh, so you're telling me that if I tell my neighbor to give you a call, or if I give you my neighbor's information and you go out there and they sign up because of the information I gave you, that you're going to give me $50 or a $50 Amazon gift card? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah, okay, that neighbor right there is John Smith. That one right there, that's Sally Johnson. Over there, that one is Dr. Gary Anderson, that over there. And they say, okay, well, give me some more information. What about them, things like that. They are going to just feed you those. Because think about it, they give you, and my mom, she lives over here. And my aunt lives in another neighborhood, down the street. And they've given you 4 names. All 4 of those people, now they've just made $200. And once they start reaping the rewards and they start getting, they have $200 and all they had to do is give you 4 names, they're going to say, you know what? I know a bunch of other people. And so I'm telling you right now, fuck all the $25, fuck the $10, $50 is your best friend. And say, yeah, $50, you're going to, they sign up and they pay for their service, their first service. I'm going to send you a $50 gift card. And they will start sending you customer, hand over foot, just nonstop. So I will absolutely recommend that you do that. All right, you guys. So that was 6 questions that ChatGPT, I asked it to give me some questions about pest control, starting my pest control business. I didn't come up with these answers. It would have been a lot shorter had the video would have been much shorter, but I just read them and I'm answering them. That's my story. Those are my questions. Hopefully it helped you. Hopefully it gives you some information that you can use in your business. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'm actually going to start reaching out. If you guys have anybody, or if you would like to be interviewed, that's something that I want to start doing. I want to get more people's input. So again, if you have anybody that you would recommend to be interviewed on this channel right here, or anybody that, or you yourself would like to get on here and tell your story, and you have no problem about being on camera, things like that, comment in the comment section below who it is or your name, and reach out, and we can make it happen. I would really, really enjoy making that happen. Actually, it's a way for me to connect with others, and so that you're not just hearing what I have to say. We can hear from other people in the pest control and service industry space, and we can all grow together. So again, if you have anybody that you think would be great for an interview, or you yourself would like to be interviewed, let me know in the comment section. And if you haven't done so already, do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to do me a bigger favor, hit that share button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and that's one of the best ways to do so. But for now, everybody, thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you got something to take away. But until next time, take care and stay confident. But I also forgot in the description, I was just recently interviewed on Pest Control Millionaires. So it was me being a guest interviewer with Danny Liebrandt and Jonas Olson and Jake Sheldon on their program. So if anybody wants to watch that, I'll have the link to that video in the description and in the comment section. Go watch that. It was my first interview. Let me know how I did. But if there's anything else you guys want to hear about, just let me know. Until next time, thank you as always for everything. And one more time, take care and stay confident.